space. Thank you, Pinterest. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Jesse. And of course, Eric, for presenting. Always so awesome to be here, and you're such an awesome host. So thank you very much. We're gonna have actually Jesse and Matt come up and say a couple words about Pinterest, and come on up.
Hey, everybody. Hi, welcome to Pinterest. This is the third Macbrained we've hosted here, and I'm super happy to see everybody. I'm Matt Thorne. I'm head of IT at Pinterest. Yes, so am I. I'm Matt. I am glad that we've been able to host this 3 times, and I'm glad that each time we've been able to have a nice nacho spread. So I hope everybody has enjoyed nachos. I promise you, every Macbrained that happens here, there will be nachos. That is my promise to you. I'm not going to take too long. I know you guys are eager to hear from Eric. I just want to talk for a couple minutes about some of the philosophies around how we think about CPE here at Pinterest, how we think about building our engineering function. So I was the first IT employee at Pinterest about 4 years ago. We're now about 20 and change across IT ops, infrastructure, which is our overall engineering function, and our business systems team. And we've been very deliberate in how we've hired our sort of core engineering functions, including CPE. So right now we have one CPE, and that's Eric, who I think everybody in this room knows. And if you don't know Eric, like, you'll definitely know who he is after this talk. He's a rock star in the community, as you guys know. And I'm super excited to have him present on some of the stuff that he's building here, because I'm pretty sure everybody's going to be mighty blown away. And we want that level of person in every engineering function that we build at Pinterest across IT. So, across our ops function, across our infrastructure function, we view CPE as a first-class engineering citizen, right? So, just to give you an idea, in the sort of bullpen area where Eric sits, Eric, our CPE, sits next to Neil, our SRE, who sits right next to our network engineers, who sit right next to our AV engineers, our software engineer. So we definitely view it as a core function, something that is, very key to the success of IT at Pinterest. Yeah, I'm really excited for him to talk about what he's building, and also I do want to say that this is a shameless plug for the fact that we have another CPE role open. So if you are interested, if any of you are interested in working with Eric, and after what he's going to talk about tonight, if you are interested in working with Eric, there is a second spot open. So contact me, contact Eric, contact Jesse, contact anybody that you can find from Pinterest, and we would love to talk to you. We believe in being able to code. We believe in open source. We also believe in commercial products. We believe in building hybrids of the three that end up with a best of breed solution. So we're not super religious about everything being open source. We're not super religious about everything being commercial. We're not super religious about you building an engineered system to solve every problem. We believe in the best of breed solution, and that's usually a hybrid of one or all three of those. So that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to turn it over to Jesse, who will talk a little bit more about some of Pinterest values and some data on the company.
Cool. All right. Again, thank you guys for coming out. We're really happy to have you guys here, learn a little bit more about Pinterest, a little bit about what Eric and our team have been working on. What I want to do is give a little bit of a current state and talk about Pinterest and the company. I was standing back there by the nacho bar, and someone said, "Why do you have all these security guards? Like, aren't you guys just a company that has some pictures and boards and all those type of things?" And I think it's one thing we're really proud of. And I think going from what we are as a company, our values, these things actually flow directly into our IT and our IT engineering teams. It's the culture, fostering innovation. So what I want to start off with, our mission statement. We are not a social network. It's one of the things we're actually working really, really hard to break is we're really about empowering people to discover what things they love. It's a catalog of ideas. The company was founded back in 2010, so we're actually pretty young. It's one of the things from an IT perspective, it's most exciting is we're young enough where our foundation, our core IT systems, and some of the things that Matt and the team, early IT employees, have put into place, we are really efficient, lightweight, frictionless platforms that make the end user experience, all of our employees, all of our contractors, all of our stakeholders, they love the tools. And we're really able to produce a lot of great services with not that many heads. In terms of values, this is something that sometimes can be cheesy, but Pinterest is the first company that I think the values have really meant a lot to me. First thing we talk about is putting pinners first. These are our customers, the people who are using our app. They're using Pinterest.com on their desktops, but they are our priority. We want to make their experience best in class, especially compared to some of the other platforms out there. Being authentic. This is something of all the values, I think this holds true with Eric and some of the principles he has when he engineers. He wants to be true to a really great endpoint management platform, something that isn't watching you. It's not taking a lot of resources up on your computer. It's not these heavy agents. He wants to be authentic and let employees move fast on their machines and not weigh them down. And lastly, Go and knit. Go is about moving fast, fail fast, do all those things. Let's build platforms really quick. And then knit is about working cross-disciplinary. Matt talked about just in our IT area how the different functions work. CPE is not second-class citizen for us. It's a first-class citizen. It is up there with SRE, is up there with network engineers, all those folks. They work together because the solutions they come up with together by knitting are better than any of them could have done in silo. It's not an ego contest. There's very little competition in our org. So lastly, these are the numbers. These are the ones that are the kind of ooh-ah numbers from my perspective. But based on public sources where Pinterest is, in 2016, some people have reported, it's not official, but that there was approximately $300 million in revenue. We're hoping that this next year is even better, and we'll continue to have success and grow. Employee-wise, we're at about 1,100 or so FTEs, and these folks are located not only in San Francisco, but across the US and internationally. Feel free to take pictures, all these things, they are public sources. But we have folks all over. From an IT perspective, from a CP perspective, from an automation perspective, this is what's exciting. When Eric wakes up every day, he's thinking about how do I make these things work for my 4 employees in Tokyo? How do I think about imaging infrastructure? All these things, and not only for 1,100 employees, but eventually when we double in size, how is this going to scale and how can we avoid rebuilding it a second time? And lastly, equity funding. So a lot of people have put in money to us for $1.3 billion or so of equity funding. It just means that we have some money to move fast and try great things. But in general, we're a company that is not trying to boast, not trying to waste money. We want to do the right things, be authentic, and hold those values true. So I don't want to hold up anyone any longer on these Pinterest company metrics. I just want to introduce Eric Gomez, Pinterest IT's 1 CPE. We're really proud of everything he's built. So let's put a round of applause to him.
All right, we're going to test the mic. Can you guys hear me? Perfect. All right, well, welcome everyone. It's nice to see you all. I kind of want to get started because I'm going to run over time probably if I don't just start. So originally, kind of like the title was Custom PD for Performance Enhancing Deployments. And it was kind of a play on bro culture and things like that. And over the past few weeks, I've noticed something that kind of was disturbing. And so I decided to change the title. I hope you guys don't really mind. So really what it is open source and vendor MDM. It's not open source versus. And we really think about this. It started on April 2nd, and it was this little tweet. It was free tech often comes at a high cost. And then, of course, about a week and a half ago, we saw this. And so I think we can all say that this did not go over very well. It insulted a lot of people that have written tools, and a lot of people in the community just felt this was terrible. And so my biggest takeaway, the first feeling that I had was just, why? Why would you guys do this? And so I don't know why they did it, but I do feel like this is in bad taste. And here are the reasons why. I hope you can read this, but we'll kind of go through this really quickly. One is the core of Jamf Pro is built on open source technologies, which is Tomcat and MySQL. And for a lot of people that use Jamf Pro, ourselves included when we were using Jamf Pro, there's auto update magic. There's auto Casper MVI, auto dimage, auto package. There's rich Trouton scripts that probably are in every single JSS out there. And so I think it's just a little odd to talk about the high cost of cheap solutions, is what they said. And so I kind of want to correct that. Open source isn't cheap, it's free. When we think of the word cheap, we think that it's of inferior quality or worth, and it's not at all. Open source is amazing. I love using open source, and we're also going to debut a couple of open source technologies today. So let's kind of get into why we decided to leave Jamf Pro. The big thing for me is just kind of the platform limitations. There are issues with profiles. They're not dynamic, and they're singular in scope. And we'll kind of talk about that in a little bit. But the other things that I really hate are, image compressed packages. You can't really do like Google Drive, Google Chrome. You have to repackage these things. And while you can do it in auto package and it's really easy, again, these are things that aren't officially supported. Choice changes XML. That's actually a pretty powerful thing that if you're a monkey admin, you realize you can change things on a package without having to repackage things. The other things are, Apple updates, updating applications, detecting app state. That still doesn't exist in Jamf, and it's kind of crazy that it doesn't. And for us, there were several outstanding bugs that haven't been fixed to date. I kind of pride myself on not destroying people's machines, and yet when I got here, I destroyed 200 iOS devices twice in less than a month. And I had never destroyed a machine before, so it was crazy. It was egg on my face, but it was because there was really no ability to go from alpha to beta into production. You just have to go into production and hope things work. And they actually, they're working on this, but the extension attributes and smart groups kind of only support strings. And for someone that writes programmatic scripts, you want to work with integers, you want to work with arrays. And when you have to condense it down to a string, you're doing odd, like not if, or you're doing these weird comparisons that you have to do in Jamf. I hate it. And then for us, we also needed support for Android and Windows. So we don't have very many of those devices. We're 99% Apple, but we still need some support. And I've talked to Dean about this, and they say, look, they're world-class Apple tooling. So that's fair, but for us, we need a little bit more. And then kind of the bigger thing, this is something that Facebook kind of really drilled into our community, and I completely agree with. It's the ability for your frameworks to be code reviewable. And I think for all MDMs, MDM is kind of a black box to the employees. They understand that it's there, they don't really complain, but they have no idea of what we're doing and when we make changes. And so the idea here is if you move to something like Chef or some kind of open source technology, you can probably automate your tools to be code reviewable, and then your peers can actually see what you're doing. So I want to talk about profile limitation. And this is the biggest thing that bothers me with all MDMs. In my opinion, they're terrible. And here's why. So if we think about this, what does Apple say? The best practice, if you have multiple profiles containing similar payloads with different settings, the resulting behavior is undefined. So what does that mean? That means if you deploy a payload key and you have two profiles that do that, you have no idea what settings are going to happen. And so if we look, Chef will manage com.apple.screensaver in this case, and there's two keys that you typically need to manage. If you go through the GUI of these other MDMs, AirWatch, it'll give you 6 payloads with 7 extra keys. If you get Profile Manager, you get 8 different payloads and 12 different keys. And unfortunately, Jamf Pro, it's the worst. You get 9 different payloads and 12 different keys. So if you go through the GUI, you can end up having multiple payloads that have all these different keys that you don't need. And now you have all this undefined behavior. And so these are actually the payloads that are deployed. So com.apple.screensaver for Chef, that's the only one that you care about. And yet for these tools, you have com.apple.application access, login window, MCX, preference security, security firewall, submit diag info, system policy. It's crazy. And all of these are going to be undefined, and you don't even realize it. So what can sometimes happen if you're new to managing Macs, you don't even realize you have a problem until it's too late. And again, Chef kind of works around this. So the key takeaway here is if you're creating profiles through a paid MDM solution, you may result in undefined behavior. So if we start looking at Chef, Again, Chef is really, really precise. So let's take a look at a little code snippet. So here's our company-wide Ruby file. And so we're going to have, in this case, 3 keys, but CP screensaver. We're going to set the idle time to 600 seconds, which is 10 minutes. We're going to ask for a password equals true, and then ask for a password delay of 0 seconds. That's really all you need to do. And so for my file, egomez.ruby, I'm actually overriding the ask for password delay. I'm not going to get too in depth in this. If you want to see how this works, you should look at Mike Dodd's presentations, Nate Walk, and Nick as well. They have some really good things that go into detail how this works. But since my file comes in later during the Chef run, my value is overwritten. And so it's just 4 lines of code for myself to have a company-wide tool and then also my override of 5 seconds. And so when I talk about these tools, I always say for our employees, some of them use hotkeys. And so they accidentally press a trigger or they have a hot corner and they lock their machines and they have to re-authenticate. If it's 0 seconds, which is typically what you're deploying with Jamf, they have to re-authenticate. But if they make it 5 seconds, it's still within a reasonable time frame and they don't have to authenticate. So I think you get the best of both worlds. And we start talking about adding more feature sets to Chef. This was the only thing that I had to do to add the 10.12.4 iCloud Drive functionality. There was actually no code that I had to write. It was just in my company init file. I just added allow cloud desktop and documents equals false, and that blocked it. I didn't have to wait for an MDM to bring this functionality in. I just did it. This is the other big problem that I have, though, with with MDMs. And this is the other thing that I've heard in our community, that MDM, like Jamf Pro and AirWatch, is desired state, and it's not true at all. And here's why. So when we think about desired state, machines often do what we call drifting. And especially for client devices. If we think about servers, servers don't often drift unless you allow like SSH for everyone, but client devices often do. And so when you think about making quote unquote desired state with MDM, typically you're going to write a script and you're going to push that script. But at the end of the day, the script is the underlying method of detection. It's not the tool. So Jamf doesn't have any idea of what's going on. It's the script does. And again, if you think about, let's say, recons, the state can change in between recons. So if you're doing something like a dynamic smart group, it's probably too late. The device can change state. You'll never know. And you'll hopefully wait maybe during 3 recons, you'll figure out what that state is. But that's too long. With Chef, every time it runs, it detects everything on the device, and it changes that state. So this is a small demo that we have here. If we wanted to create a folder called MDM in library application support, this is what you do in like a shell script. For the Chef code, you kind of just state the directory that you're going to create, the owner, the group, the mode, the path, and you're going to create it. Now the difference is, though, here, is that Chef is going to understand when the permissions have changed, when the ownership has changed, when the groups change, and it's going to log all those events. Technically, these do the same thing, but these tools don't understand. And so if you wanted to write logging, well, now you have to add logging to your scripts. If you want to detect, was the root user or the root owner changed, you have to write that. Here, it's just 7 lines, and you have the same thing. They're completely different. And again, this is why traditional MDM is not desired state. But the ebook was right about 2 things. One is that it takes a lot of time to build a system from the ground up. So I've been working on these tools for about 4 months, and it's almost all day, every day. But we always think about this, Rome wasn't built in a day. And so our community is amazing. I talk to people all the time and ask for feedback. I tell them what I'm working on. They get inspired, and then they start working on things. And that's exactly why this is powerful. We can use GitHub. We can use Jamf Nation. We can use the Slack. All these ways of talking are great. But secondly, the thing that they were right about is that zero-touch deployments weren't possible. But until now. So this is kind of where we're finally going to get to announce the things that we've been working on. I'm so excited about. And really what it boils down to is it's a unique partnership. We're having paid MDM and open source. So if you read my blogs, you might have figured it out. But today we're finally going to get to announce it. And it's AirWatch. So AirWatch, what most people don't realize is they're the #1 MDM in the entire world. And convincing them to do this, it took a little bit of effort, but surprisingly, it didn't take that much. And I'm really proud to say that they've been working with us for months now, and I've been very happy with them. I didn't really feel like I could go to a company like Jamf. I don't want to get into the reasons why, but I just didn't feel like we could get the same feature sets that we needed. And so, like Matt said, we wanted to choose a best-of-breed hybrid model. We wanted the features of DEP and remote wipe from MDM, but we wanted to still be able to control the machine state and profiles with Chef. We wanted to have File Vault with Crypt, and then we wanted to have application deployments with Monkey. And so this allowed us to have everything that we wanted and more. We are actually deploying some profiles with AirWatch, but it's very, very specific. It's mainly our certificates. We want that to be encrypted and dynamic still, and AirWatch allows us to do this. But here's the funny thing. For 4 years, this is what I said. There's not enough money in the world to make me use AirWatch. And this is true. In the last company I worked for, I told them I will never use it, and I fought tooth and nail to have AirWatch. But they finally convinced me, and so that's why it ends in 2016. 2016 is when our partnership first started. But again, AirWatch isn't perfect, even to this day. So for me, the big things I don't like about AirWatch, the API doesn't return all of the machine state. And through the GUI, you can see so many different things, but through the API, you can't. Again, we're working on these things. Hopefully, they'll fix them. For us, we also have OpenLDAP. We're not an Active Directory shop. And so the documentation is pretty terrible. It took us a week to implement OpenLDAP with AirWatch. I probably need to document it. If anyone else is interested in this and wants to use this, and they have OpenLDAP, talk to me. It's painful, but hopefully we'll figure that out soon. And then the other thing is SAML connections. You have to have 2 of them, one for the admin portal and one for the users. I don't like this, but it's not that big of a deal. And then, of course, this is the main problem that I've always had with AirWatch is the UI. There's a lot of things that are buried behind submenus. And so when you first start using AirWatch, you really have to learn the UI. Eventually, you memorize it. And the search on AirWatch is not that good. But the big question is, why AirWatch? Well, they are active in our Mac admin Slack. There are several of them in the AirWatch channel. They have a laser focus on MDM and DEP, so they've never supported imaging, and I don't think they ever will. And so that's good for us, because we want to move to, out-of-the-box experiences. Again, they have multi-platform support, Android, iOS, Mac OS, Windows. They're multi-tenancy. This is a huge thing for us, so we want to gate admin access. And so typically with AirWatch, you have to give all access to the entire console. You can limit some things that they can do, but you still have to give them access to every device. This allowed us to tailor admin access to our event board devices. It had our Crestron devices. So I really like the fact that we could do this. Again, this is similar to Jamf, but you can have multiple DEP profiles. But the better part here is you can have it per tenant. So you can do some more dynamic things. And again, our partnerships. So we have custom DEP, and there's also some custom Android functionality that we're kind of not going to get into, but it was really cool, and no other MDM would do this for us. But this is the big thing. Instead of posting ebooks about open source, AirWatch embraced open source. They weren't hiding about it. And so within a week of our partnership, we actually had the ability to deliver our custom DEP package. So once they agreed to it, they said, oh, this is super easy for us to do. They gave us a package, and I installed Monkey for the first time. And seeing that through the whole process was amazing. So happy. But as I said, it took a lot of brainstorming and code to actually come up with our deployment strategy. So sure, we got Monkey going, but how do we go past that? And how do we inform our users that DEP is actually happening? Because you don't want to log them out. I feel like you want to keep them in their UI, and you want to make it similar to what other people are doing in DEP. So I started playing, I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but we started playing with Yo notifications. And so we would just say, hey, PIM employee, sit tight, we're working on your machine. But there's no UI. So at the end, what I decided is, oh, well, we'll just do more Yo notifications. We'll have more that come up, and it'll say, hey, we're done. All right, cool. But again, there's no UI. The doc changes and those kind of things happen, but they still have no idea really what's happening. So I played with other UI tests. Again, Yo. I ended up writing my own Python version of Yo. I started playing with Notification Center. And so this is kind of a Python example. We started just rapidly sending notifications to them. So each time there was a stage. But still, it wasn't that good. I was getting there, but I didn't like the UI. But at the end of the day, this is kind of what we settled on for V1. And we do still have a Yo notification. It's dynamic. It'll figure out your first name. And so it's more personalized. It'll say, hello, Eric. But there's actually a UI that comes up, and it shows the status, and it shows a progress bar. So we really felt that having a status bar would have the user understand what we were doing and how we were doing it. So let's just look at a tiny video. This is going to go very, very quickly. It's about 13 seconds. But what it shows you is that you can have this tool come up, you can customize it, and then you can have the progress windows actually take place. So it loads. We change the icon. We change the text. And then we start changing the bottom part and start actually putting progress windows. So it goes. You can also do Yo notifications, equivalent of Yo notifications. And then you can also have a little dialog box that when it's done, it can say your machine is ready, and then they can quit it. So we're officially calling this tool DP Notify. It's actually written by Joel Rinnick. I've helped write some of the code, but he's really the main person that's written it. You can find it on a DP Notify, and you can start testing it. It's pretty cool. So I want to start talking about install application and the requirements here. So if you've read my blog, you kind of understand here that it has to be signed by a developer account for your package. And then sub-packages can be optionally signed, but they can't be distribution packages. And so this is actually a key problem with something like Chef. Chef has a distribution package that's signed. Luckily, in the case of Chef, in my first testings, is that we could extract the sub-package, and it wasn't a distribution package, and then I could load that. And that allowed me to kind of cheat and get Chef installing. But I started realizing, well, this doesn't really work out. I have to take the Chef package out. And then what happens if they ever change this model? If they have a distribution package, I can no longer install it. And we start looking at app manifest plist. This is another component. When you use install applications, you're having an app manifest plist, and what this has is a URL to the package and MD5 or MD5s that are split into 10 meg chunks. We'll look at this a little bit more in a second. But to give you an idea of my custom DEP package, version 0.1 was only 3.5 megs because it was just Monkey. Then it kind of grew to 10.1 megs because I added Yo. It added to 22.5. I started adding some more high quality images. It ballooned to 43.9 because I added Chef. I kept adding more and more assets, and it kept growing and it kept growing. And so eventually I hit a point where it was at almost 73 megs. So it grew and grew and grew, and then the UI slowed down because it had to load all these files. And one thing that most people don't realize is when you have multiple sub-packages in a single distribution package, it goes through all the pre-installs first. Then it installs all the files, and then it installs all of the post-installs. So you have to be really careful on how these load. And then if you're installing 35,000 files like you would with Chef, it takes a long time. And so I kind of alluded to this, but I call it monolithic packaging. And exactly why? That's the question. So here's like Yo, we had Outset, we had Chef, we had a cookbook cache, so we could kind of speed up the way Chef runs. At this version, I had to actually have a fix for Oh Hi. We ended up writing some code for Oh Hi to fix. It used to require the Xcode command line tools. Chef no longer requires that. But at the time, I had to kind of hot patch it. Then the different versions of Monkey, the bootstrapping. And so again, anytime I had to make a change to just one of these packages, well, now I have to redo this entire package, put it back in our MDM, and it took a long time, and I hated it. But I got down to 30K. And the reason why I got down to 30K is I developed my own tool. And so that's what I call install applications. Install applications is kind of like a Monkey Lite. What it allows you to do is have a JSON, and it loads that JSON and then dynamically installs the files that you need. So it solves a lot of our problems. It solves the ability to install more than one package without having to have these packages in a monolithic way. It also allows you to install packages during the setup assistant and after. And this is pretty huge, and you'll see why in a second. But the bigger thing is you only have to install one package in your DEP console, and then from that point on, you just update your JSON file. And anytime you make a change to it, the next time someone loads their machines, they'll get this new package. And something that's actually new to me that I kind of discovered on the way of making this is I can also use this for virtual machines and pre-DEP devices that we still have to image. So it kind of had one tool to do everything. So if you look at the JSON structure, this is really what it is. There's three things, what I call a pre-stage, a stage 1, and a stage 2. And when we think about this, the pre-stage is what you'd want to install during the setup assistant. So while the user is still going through that process, this can kick off and it can have DEP notify ready for you. And then stage 1 is just going to sit there and wait and wait and wait. And when the setup assistant is finished, then it'll load your bootstrapping UI. That way you can almost have an instant UI. And so now with AirWatch, install applications, and macOS 10.12.4 with the fix, you can literally almost have an instant UI. So let's take a look at that really quickly. So you can see you've been set up into the Mac, and in a second, it'll load. So I think this solves a lot of problems that people have with other tools, other MDMs that are doing DEP, is that it takes a while. Here it's pretty much right after the dock loads. And the reason why is you're essentially waiting for launch control to load up all of your launch agents. So there's still going to be some time there, but it's really, really fast because there's almost no launch agents installed on a brand new machine. There's a couple of really cool features that are coming soon. So let's just start talking about them with AirWatch. So with AirWatch 9.1, you can actually send arbitrary MDM client commands through the GUI. And you can do this either on a singular device or you can select multiple devices. And so basically what you do, if you look at the, you really can't see this, but if you look at the MDM profile guide and the reference guide here, it's just XML. And so they allow you to have custom XML that you put through here. When you send this XML, it automatically runs this on the device that you've selected. So you can actually have install applications run dynamically, and you don't even have to do anything. So let's just say you figure out a device that doesn't have Monkey installed anymore, or somehow they've killed Chef. You can go to the console and you can reinstall Chef automatically, and there's nothing they can do because this is DEP. But it gets even cooler. You can also do it through the API. And so I've written a little demo script that you can find on GitHub. Essentially, you just pass your authorization, the base URL for your AirWatch console, the manifest URL for the application you're going to install, and then the tenant code. You can actually specify a machine serial number, or you could just remove that completely, run this locally on the machine without sudo rights, and then it'll just do it. It'll install the application. And so again, if we start looking at app manifests, all it is really a software package with your MD5s and then the URL to the package. And so this is kind of, it's a little much to figure out how to write the plists, but luckily, MicroMDM has a tool to do this. So essentially all you do is you run this tool called app manifest, you specify the package, and then you write out your app manifest, and that's it. So now you have an app manifest plist that you can arbitrarily send through AirWatch. So again, let's take another look at this. This is on the device in a VM, and this is a 100 meg file for Wireshark. So we've already sent the device on the script is on the device, and in a second here, Wireshark should appear. That's it. So it's a 100 meg file. If it was Monkey, like 3.5 megs, it'd be almost instant. But again, this is just to show you how fast AirWatch is when you can use install applications. So when we think about the availability of the feature sets that MDM have right now, AirWatch has, your basic MDM, and now you have the ability to have the custom install application. This is coming out with AirWatch 9.1. It's not out yet, but it should be out really, really soon. And then of course we have custom DEP. So that's all the things that we're talking about today. They're not out yet, but they're coming really, really soon. Unfortunately, one of the tools that I'm really, really interested in watching is Fleetsmith. They still don't have any MDM features, but I hope that they'll work on this and get this running. Again, though, if you look at Jamf Pro really only has basic MDM. MicroMDM has everything. Microsoft Intune, Mobile Iron, Meraki, they just have basic MDM. But there is another tool that's come out recently that also has custom install application and custom DEP. I don't know a lot about how the tools work, but there is some cool functionality there, and I'm glad that other MDMs are working on this. So when we think about this, greater control of MDM benefits everyone. So we keep hearing the rumors that imaging might be dead and that Apple's moving to MDM only, but MDM client still needs a lot of work. And unfortunately, since if you're using Jamf or you're using other MDM tools, MDM client is kind of obfuscated away from the admin. And so we don't know what MDM client does or how to solve the issues that we're seeing. Luckily, through AirWatch, I've been able to see a lot of the problems that MDM client has. One of them is if you send a bad manifest P list, it'll break MDM client completely. And you can try to kill the services, but really you have to reboot the device. It's a huge bug. But again, they don't have the feedback because no one's using MDM client in this way besides just installing the Jamf binary. So that kind of leads us to the radars and future enhancements. As more and more people start using this tool, we'll get more features and will benefit everyone to have MDM better. So for us, again, it's like we have full control of the DEP. We can do anything that we want. With AirWatch, again, with the API, that example that I gave you is just for install applications, but you could do a major OS upgrade. You could reboot a device. You could shut down a device. It's not limited to just that. But for the vendors, the big thing is you still get paid. You know, we're still going to pay you to do DEP. Yeah, we're not using you for everything, but what does it matter? We're going to pay you. And again, you're going to support the customers who want control over their deployments. Maybe you want to use DEP Notify. Maybe you want to have install applications and control that and control how quickly it comes up. If you can't do it right now, but you will hopefully be able to do it soon. So I just want to leave this for all the MDM vendors, that this supports everyone. Please support these features. So I just want to say a thank you to AirWatch. I really, really appreciate everything they've done. I'm very, very happy with the support that we've been given, and I hope this partnership is just beginning. There's much, much work to be done, but I'm really, really proud of this. Yes, let's give them a round. So I do want to give some honorable mentions. Centrify, I think this week, wrote a blog post about a new Mac app management that's powered by Monkey and Auto package. It's really, really cool. I'm glad that we're seeing this. And of course, Macbrained, it's not production ready yet, but Jesse and Victor are really, really working on this. I hope to see more from them, and I'm really, really excited to see where Macbrained is going to go. Then, of course, Simple MDM. Again, like they have a really cool UI. I kind of want to show this off. They have all the application catalog, and so what you do is you go to the assignment page, and you upload a macOS package. And then from there, it's just drag and drop. You drag and drop a package, has to be signed, but you can install it. But there's some really, really cool things that I want to show off. And Henry with Zentral made a really cool API demo. So I'm going to shut up for a few minutes, or about 2 minutes, and let him show this.
Hi there, this is Henry from Zentral. We just added Simple MDM as an integration to Zentral. For this, we need an API key. We find this in the settings section from Simple MDM. We copy the key and attach it to a business unit. Now we're ready to push some apps to Simple MDM. Currently, there's no apps in the catalog. And we are going to change this. We create a package and upload it. We select our Monkey version. We give it a name. And this will compile a package that will link Monkey with Central and push the events back to Central. This package is uploaded to Simple MDM. We do the same for OS Query. Again, we pick the OS Query version, and the configuration to attach OS Query to Central will be combined into a package and uploaded to Simple MDM. And finally, we do the same for Santa. Give it a name. We push the package to Simple MDM. Back in Simple MDM, we see the apps have been uploaded. We can assign them for enrollment and installation via DP or regular MDM enrollment. These are great new options for Mac admins. Check out Simple MDM and check out Zentral. Thank you.
So as you can see, like there's some really badass things that are coming out. This is super exciting. I talked to Henry and I said, look, I really, really want to showcase this here. And he was nice enough to show this. So I really want to thank Henry. And again, Zentral is kick-ass. I'm not using it, but I'm probably going to use it really soon and try to implement it with AirWatch. Oh yeah, let's give it around. So, as Matt and Jesse said, we're hiring. So I've done all this work to this point, but I need a lot of help. And so if you're excited about doing things like this, come on board. Like I need a teammate, and I really, really want to work with someone. So we have two positions open. We have a client platform engineer and a corporate security engineer. So if you're interested in security, we really, really need that as well. And yeah, I hope to see you guys. So just a few more things. First one, AirWatch is actually here. So there's no marketing people, no sales people. This is just two engineers that were excited to be here. You can find them. Let's see, where are they? I'm not sure where they are. Yeah, they're hiding somewhere. Okay, they're back there. They're in the very, very back. So pounce them and ask them as many questions as you want. But then secondly, this is the biggest thing. So Dean and Jamf are good people, and I don't want this to come out as something that I'm against Dean. Dean got my slide deck several days ago and gave me feedback, and he reached out to me, and we've been talking about Jamf and how he can fix this. And so he wants to make things better, and so I want to call this out. Again, there are other people at Jamf that are here as well, and I want to thank them for being here. I never want it to come across as that this is open source versus something. Again, it's always and. So I just like to leave it at that. We'll have the QA, and I'm going to show a video. There's no audio or anything. It's just going to show our entire process, but we'll open it up to QA while this goes on. Thanks, guys.
All right, so anyone who has a question, just raise your hand. We'll come find you with a mic. That way that the recording captures the question, and maybe Eric can repeat it in case people don't hear.
I know you use a different service than AD, but how do you handle your users onboarding through this process with their credentials?
Yeah, that's a good question. So AirWatch can tie to Open LDAP. So when they authenticate, they're authenticating with their actual LDAP password. So it's the same password. Here is actually the perfect spot. They could change their password. We're using all local accounts. It's up to them if they want to change it though, but yeah, this is where it is. It'll automatically pull the LDAP password and put it in there. It's just up to them to change it.
So you don't have to provide them like a hard copy password?
No. Anyone else? Jesse? No.
Thanks. For a DEP enrollment such as this, have you done any of these, or do you know what your plan will be when you're deploying a machine to a user who is getting an upgrade or a machine swap? How will you migrate data?
Yeah, so we're actually skipping the migration assistant. Our technicians do use migration assistant, but it is in the utilities folder, so they could prompt that afterwards. I think that's going to be the way. We're still actually figuring that out. I'm not a big fan of migration assistant, but I know our technicians are. So this is a conversation we're going to have internally. But yeah, I actually don't have a solution for that right now. Our first version is just going to be for new users and for our service devices, and then after that, we're going to start tackling that. But so yeah, it's a great question.
I actually stole the microphone. Hi.
Hi.
You're not using File Vault?
So Crypt is our file vault encryption scheme. So Chef is going to control the profiles for Crypt, and you'll actually see this in a second, but Monkey will install Crypt, Chef will control Crypt, and then when the user reboots, their device is encrypted.
Okay.
Yeah.
A legitimate question should take this microphone from me.
No, that's a great question, actually. That is a great question.
Do you just wait for that reboot to happen naturally, or do you encourage them somehow?
So we're going to encourage them. Yeah, we are going to encourage them. And during new hire orientation, so this is something that's different than probably most companies. We're still not giving a device to someone to say, hey, just set up your stuff. We're going through an actual process. And so Helene kind of spearheads that, and she'll just tell them, hey guys, reboot. And yeah, I mean, if they don't reboot, we can start putting a launch agent, poking them. But I don't think we have to do that.
Question here.
All right. First question from the feed was, have you ever used a custom payload profile in Jamf Pro?
Yes, of course you can do that, but then you still have to know the XML structure. So if you know the XML structure, just use Chef. If you already have to do the work, do it in something that's better. So again, custom XML, while it's great, it's singular in scope, and then you have to redeploy it. And the UI is not really tailored for custom XML. With Chef, it could be one line of code. If I make something from a false to a true statement, it takes seconds. It doesn't take seconds in custom XML.
Ruby hashes are also easier.
Yes, that's a good point. Ruby hashes are also much easier to some degree. I'll give you a little credit. A little credit.
Thank you. Would you ever, would you have any scenario where you would use DEP's enrollment optimization wherein you wouldn't actually notify the user?
Yeah, so right now,
Your process is so light.
yeah, I mean, for the user side, no. For our service devices, probably. So we're also doing, we have open LDAP service accounts. And so when you authenticate in DEP with those service accounts, Chef is going to dynamically change the device type. And so it'll load other profiles, other configurations. Right now, our YO notifications on our DEP notify is still exactly the same, but I might change that. I just really haven't had time, and it's a small thing. But I think for our users, the only thing that we're doing dynamically is the custom YO notification that says, hello, Eric, hello, Whitney, whatever it is. That's the only thing that we're dynamically doing.
Right on.
Cool. Well, how about another one from the field?
All right. What about when Apple's DEP servers aren't working?
We cry and we just yell profanity the whole entire time. I mean, that's really all we can do, right? Yeah, so again, like install application in the worst case scenario, we could still use that in image devices and it would be exactly the same setup. We just have to preload install applications on the device and it'll run as a launch agent and trigger everything. So worst case scenario, we do that, but I'll just bitch at Apple and tell them, please fix this. Yeah, so.
So were you a Ruby developer when you started using Chef, or did you have to get up to speed on it? And if you did, how long did it take you?
Yeah, no, I'd never written a single line of Ruby before. I got to speed mainly because of Mike Dodge and Nick McSpadden. There's also, yeah, let's give him a shout out. I definitely want to say that without the tools that they've open sourced, this would be a much harder project to get started. But there's a Chef Slack channel. There's also a Ruby Slack channel. And so if you have any questions, you can certainly ask. For me, I guess to feel comfortable, it probably took me a month. But as you're writing these things and watching the magic happen, you just get inspired and you just want to keep working on it. So it was about a month. But now I feel pretty comfortable. I wouldn't call myself a Chef expert. I'd still say a novice to some degree. But I write things and they do things dynamically and it's awesome. So. Anyone else?
From the field. Sure.
Oh.
Can you describe the experience of installing dependencies in a post-install via the install application command to ensure your tools get deployed at enrollment? Have you tested this at scale? Any caveats, gotchas, etc.?
All right, so that's a long way. Okay, so you might have to repeat some of these things, but as far as the post installs, yeah, if you're running things through a post install on a package, you have a lot of weird things that can happen, especially in Python. So you have to be really, really careful. My suggestion is to put it in a Python script, put it in a file, and then call launchd with it. You can totally do that and have your post install actually load the launch daemon. That's what I would do for that. As far as dependencies are concerned, no, install applications does everything correctly at the right time. So there's some built-in logic in install applications. What it does is it actually checks the hash that's in your JSON file. If that hash is invalid, it'll keep downloading. It's not going to install something that's bad. The only thing where it could trump you is if you put the wrong hash in your JSON, you could potentially loop. So I'm thinking about putting maybe a break after 3 tries. I just haven't written it yet, but it's not that big of a worry. And as far as at scale, I wouldn't say that we're at scale yet, but we're certainly doing it with all our service devices, and it's working very, very well. Was there anything else on that question?
There was
test it at scale, any caveats and gotchas?
Yeah, the gotchas just don't stuff everything in a post install like I did the first time. Yeah, I killed myself so many times and wasted several hours because of that.
So Eric, your post install is running unprivileged, right? Or your initial setup tool, right? The Pinterest app that comes up, right? And it's using install applications to install things in a privileged context, correct?
So it's kind of the opposite. So install applications installs DP notify, and that actually does run as root.
Okay.
So install applications, since it's deployed through install application from MDM, that's run in the elevated context. So everything that you do from that point on could be elevated if you wanted to. But I also have outset. I'm loading some things dynamically through there, which is in the user's context. So that kind of allows us to do the different things. But as far as the package deployment, it's all root.
Okay.
That's where you have to be careful with the post installs. Because you're doing everything as root and it just gets wacky sometimes. Especially like the Python notifications that I had that little video of. If you run it in a post install, it actually cripples installer, and then installer fails completely afterwards and it doesn't tell you, and it's a nightmare actually. So
fun.
These are the fun things that you learn. I mean, and that's the other kind of thing I'd like to say is custom DEP. It's not necessarily easy, but it's fun. And as more and more people do this, just write some blog posts and say, hey, here are the caveats. Haven't been able to write every caveat that I've found, but there's certainly a lot. Nope, that's it. All right, guys. Well, thanks a lot. Oh, you have one more? One more. Yeah, keep going.
Was it difficult for you to like work with your dep vendor to get things in dep quickly, or is that a problem you solved just manually?
No, so I think we have that solved. So we purchase everything through CDW. We don't purchase anything through Apple, and so that was really, really easy. I know other companies have bigger problems. You know, if you're at scale, like someone at Facebook, you probably buy things differently than how we do, but everything is purchased through a vendor that is installed in DEP.
Yeah, we definitely have a couple vendors, so that's been a hurdle as we've been testing dep workflows and stuff. So
yeah, I could definitely see that. Yeah, no, so far so good. I think Travis can definitely test that. He's done a lot of work in having CDW have their shit together, basically. Cool. Well, if there's nothing else, thank you guys. Actually, sorry, one thing. So I said guys, and I really apologize for that. Thank you, everyone. This is a gender neutral place. I'm working on this, so I apologize. Oh, my bad. All right. Yeah. Dang it. Stop yelling at me. God.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and definitely, yeah, special thanks to Pinterest for hosting us, and to Eric for presenting. I'll get into other stuff. All right, so we're always looking for new hosts. Whenever you notice that Macbrained events are infrequent, yeah, that's because we didn't have a host. We can always, hopefully we can always drum up a presenter, but also there's speaking opportunities right there. If you're interested in presenting or you're interested in hosting, that's where to go. You can also email Jason at Macbrained, Andrew at info at Macbrained, anywhere, and it's going to reach us, and we will reach back out to you. So that, of course, goes into when and where is the next Macbrain. So Lindy Group will be hosting the next Macbrain. So we will have another one of those rare and elusive East Bay Macbrains. You know.
So that means come.
Yeah, show up. Especially for those on the stream or after the fact that live in the East Bay, support the fact that we should have an East Bay chapter. All right. Also, let's go back and put that one back up there. Also, for after the event, across the street at the Mars Bar, the Lindy Group has been nice enough to sponsor the first round. Yeah. So, That's fine. All right. It's across the street for anyone that wants to know how to get there. It's but you go out the front door and there's the bar. If you get lost, I can't help you. If you want to get home, Uber can work for you. So can Lyft. You know, choose your vendor of choice. Yeah. So the other part that we were going to do on this, which maybe we got the link out there a little bit too soon. What we've done in the South Bay is we've done, and it's a smaller group. It's about 30 people or so that end up showing up down in the South Bay. We do the poll everywhere thing, and people throw in their topics that they want to talk about, and then we kind of open format it so that we have the topics, and then most likely in the audience we're going to have at least an advanced to expert level person that can speak to those topics. And through the concept of poll everywhere, that kind of adds to more of the anonymity of maybe someone that doesn't feel comfortable asking in public maybe what they think is a very novice question, or maybe they think it's a dumb question when it's probably really isn't, and there's most likely other people in the audience that would love to know the answer to this question. In the future, and we're going to try to start filling spots where we can, like in situations where we have one presenter or excess of time, and post it ahead of time so people can get their topics out there. So that'll be moving forward, and that's still what's happens down in the South Bay. South Bay events, they're a little bit smaller. Normally, we only have space for about 30 people at maximum. So, but that's kind of been our test bed these days of how to drive content, because we haven't ended up with a lot of presenters down there either. So, if that being said, if the San Francisco Macbrained is maybe a little bit more intimidating for you, you can maybe step in and start with the smaller venue down in the South Bay and kind of figure out if it's something that you like doing, or learn some experience from that. So definitely really encourage anyone that's interested in presenting, they think they have a great idea, or maybe someone that told you had a great idea and you're not quite sure you do. Present it, show it, share with the community. That's always awesome. Definitely, before we close this out, want to give a shout out to Jamf, because they do sponsor the community and Macbrained. So, and yeah, thank you very much for showing up. Have a great night.